One of the things very often talked about in various Gurdjieff groups that I was involved with was feeding the wolf. Now, we more highly evolved spiritual people, um, obviously don't like to feel that we have a wolf, but in the main we are, sort of 99% wolf anyway, drooling wolves, eager to get our own way, to win an argument, to gain more money, to be more successful with the opposite sex, to be more successful at work, to get the promotion above and beyond others. It's, the list of the behaviors that we manifest that are truly animalistic are endless. The thing that always pops into my mind is these nice, mild-mannered people who go to work in arms factories. They go in there and they're making bullets and missiles and goodness knows what else that will be used to kill people. And they push all the reality of that to the back of their minds. And they do this because they are wolves, drooling wolves, that are desperate to maintain their existence. And if producing armaments that are going to be used to kill other people mean that they can exist and enjoy a good standard of living, then they will go and do that. So, back to the wolf. Now, the wolf is essentially only interested in one thing, and that is surviving. But within that, there are two other major objectives. One is to eat, to have enough food, and the other one is to fuck. Yeah, sorry for the language, but it gives it a more immediate reality. So the wolf is interested in pleasure, essentially, eating and having sex and procreating. And if the wolf doesn't get what it wants, then the wolf can get a bit nasty. So how does the wolf get nasty? Well, let's take the example, and I've seen this many times, of people who believe that they're on a spiritual path and that they can only manifest kindness and goodness and gentleness and humility and all of those things that we read about in the various religions. What will happen is the wolf will become very, very angry and frustrated. And the wolf has to get out somewhere. It's to a large extent what we are. I shall go into what we're not, or how we are slightly more than the wolf a little bit later. But the wolf has to be satisfied. If it's not satisfied, it will cause mischief. So how does it cause mischief? Well, we all know about the Roman Catholic Church and the priests who abuse children. They've tried to tame their wolf by exercising vows of chastity, but you just cannot keep this wolf in. It's going to find its way out somewhere, and it finds its way out in more aberrant behaviors, so abusing small children. Of course, not all priests do that, but there's now a fairly well-established record of Roman Catholic priests being involved in child abuse. Another way it can come out, so say we have some New Age spiritual group where people are told it's all love and light, and so on and so forth, but somebody is getting a little bit more attention from their guru than maybe a few other people would like. Are they going to start feeling a bit jealous? Yes, of course they are. There's a bit of limelight going on. The wolf likes limelight. It's ambitious. And so maybe they'll start acting a little bit bitchy towards that person who's getting more attention from the guru. And so the wolf will come out in snide little comments, in bitchy behavior, and so on. The wolf, if you try in any way to constrain the wolf, it will find some way to manifest itself that is actually even more damaging than the behavior that you're trying to constrain. So when you look at people in the work, then you will find that a lot of them have so-called bad habits. Yeah, I'll admit that when I first got involved with the various groups, the word shocked isn't quite right, but I was sort of surprised to find that a lot of them really like their alcohol, and a lot of them like their cigarettes. I remember going to visit the Prairie at Fontainebleau near Paris, and one of the guys who was fairly up in the London Gurdjieff organisation said to me, "Can you get me some of those Dis Bleu cigarettes that Mr. Gurdjieff used to smoke. As it turns out, I couldn't get them, but I actually went into the tobacconist where Mr. Gurdjieff used to go. Very nice tobacconist as well. Oh my goodness. If you like cigars and things, which I do, then that is just such a beautiful tobacconist. You know, well, I could wax lyrical about it for a long time. But, you know, it's like this musty old tobacconist with the humidors, and you could smell the cigars, and anyway, so on and so forth. So the wolf had a fairly good time in that. And, you know, I've known people in the Gurdjieff work who are basically philanderers. You know, I mean, they will have sex with almost anybody, several at once if they can get away with it. So the idea of some kind of spiritual behavior that is constraining all these appetites is simply ridiculous. Now, it's such a contradiction, isn't it? On the one hand, we are given these images of, you know, I suppose maybe the Christian church is the worst, of these saintly figures who have, subjugated their animal drives, and we believe it's something to aspire to, and in actual fact it isn't something to aspire to. It's something that's very, very dangerous. If you want to get a fairly good account of all of this, then Osho's book, The Book of Secrets, has a fairly large section at the beginning of it where he talks about the yogis who have disciplined their bodies and their appetites and so on, and he says these people become monsters. They do develop some kind of I within them, but this I is essentially a monster that is bullying and chastising the rest of their being. It's a horrible thing to create some kind of violent entity within oneself like that. The I that Gurdjieff is talking about is not an I that is a bully. The I that Gurdjieff is talking about is something very light and something very fine. It is not the creature that we might create in ourselves by bullying our being, by trying to tame the wolf, which will not be tamed anyway. There's a very good saying in a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. And he says, if you want to calm a bull, give it a very big field. No, he's not saying put a ring through its nose and tie it to a post, or, you know, beat the thing half to death. He's saying let it roam, and that will calm it down. Well, it's the same with your wolf. Whatever you try to do to calm the wolf will actually only aggravate it. So, having said all that about the wolf, and how you must feed the wolf if you want to make any spiritual progress, because as Gurdjieff says, at any moment the wolf can devour the lamb being the finer feelings and the finer thoughts that you may have. Because if the wolf is treated badly, it will just simply devour the lamb. So do not turn your lamb into some kind of monster that is trying to attack the wolf, because the wolf will always win. So look after your wolf, make sure it's happy, let it do whatever it wants to do, and then you can get on with some kind of real spiritual work. So here are a number of steps that I've found useful. You'll have to find your own steps. One of the most meaningful things that was ever said to me in the work was, you have to find your own way. You are responsible for it. No one's going to give you a formula to make your own progress in this. You are responsible for it. You find your own way. And if what somebody else says is useful, then pick it up and use it. Otherwise, discard it, because it might not be useful for you. So, number one, observe the wolf. Now, this is much more difficult than you think, because we're so conditioned to look upon behaviors such as promiscuity, drinking, smoking, maybe liking well, lots and lots of different kinds of food, for example. We're taught to look upon these earthly pleasures as some kind of sin, but actually your wolf likes all that kind of stuff. And you just have to watch it while it's going about its business. Do not try and stop it. Watch it. Do not criticize, just observe and do not judge. And that is difficult. It takes a long time to get to that point, because you have to change your ideas. You have to change the way you think about what you are and how your body behaves. You have to understand the wolf. You have to understand that it's driven by the survival instinct. It only wants to reproduce and eat and survive, and it will do almost anything to try and achieve that. And you have to be honest about that. You have to look at the bestial nature of the wolf, because if you are in denial about it, then you are in denial about a part of yourself, and it will create more mischief than if you look at it honestly, openly, without judgment, and just look at the way it behaves. If you want to see the wolf in full flight, then you only have to look at an invading army. An invading army is interested in rape, pillage, and murder. That is the wolf in full flight. And we all have that within us. Do not think that you do not have that within you. You do. There have been many experiments, psychological experiments carried out that show we are all capable of these things. Well, I say the word all, maybe there are a few people who are not. But I've mentioned before in another video the Stanford prison experiment, where one group of students were told to be prisoners and another group were told to be wardens. The experiment had to be abandoned because the wardens were abusing the prisoners. These were just ordinary students, but the wardens were given a little bit of power, and they went crazy with it, and they were starting to torture the prisoners. Yeah, just ordinary students, normal guys. Meet them in the street or the pub, perfectly pleasant, wonderful people. Give them a little bit of authority, and they turn into beasts. Well, they didn't turn into beasts, the beast was already there. The beast just needed a little bit of license, and that's what it got. So be honest about yourself, and honest about the human race, and honest about nature. Nature does not give a damn about you. Sorry to say that, but it's true. You're a tiny, tiny part, infinitesimally small part, of a huge, great machine that, according to Gurdjieff at least, has some kind of cosmic purpose. But that huge, great machine has no interest in you or I. It has interest in numbers, but it doesn't have interest in individuals. So if you want to become something other than the animal that you were given when you were born, then you have to work yourself to establish that. So honesty about nature. Now most of us like to pretend that nature is all beautiful and rosy. Well, of course you look out, I can look out through my window and it's a beautiful view. I look down a valley to the ocean and it's wonderful. Yet, start to lift the stones and look at the trees, and what you find is animals, in the main, savaging each other. Somebody very, very accurately described it as a carnival of carnage. And that's what nature is, a carnival of carnage. And you have to come to terms with that, as well as looking at all the pretty stuff, the eye candy. Yeah, we all like the eye candy. Nice sunsets over the sea, nice vistas down a valley to the ocean. Wonderful. But there's the other side as well. And this is one of the things in life. Everything has two aspects to it, as far as we humans are concerned. We like to focus on the pleasurable side, the life-affirming side, and we like to negate or pretend that the life-threatening side doesn't exist, but of course it does. If you can be honest about those things, then a strange thing happens, and what happens is that all that horror becomes actually less meaningful and less impactful and less threatening. So because you are, as far as nature is concerned, because you are nothing, then do not expect anything. Nature is not going to serve your needs because you are special in some way. So when you wake up in the morning, and to be honest, this is a practice I do every morning, I tell myself that I can expect nothing. I can't even expect to make it to the end of the day. And you know what? That liberates me more than I can tell you. I've mentioned mirror work in other videos. Mirror work is the key to finding some kind of liberation or happiness. Because when I tell myself in the morning to expect nothing, I'm doing the opposite of what most people do, which is most people are planning their day. They're going to go here at this time, do that at that time, see this person, have a nice lunch, da-da-da-da-da. And of course, something's going to go wrong during the day. And when it goes wrong, they're going to get pissed off and they're going to be unhappy. If you can tell yourself in the morning, expect nothing, the train will not arrive on time, when I try to start the car, it will not start, then when your day flows smoothly, it will be like nirvana. You just won't believe that things can be so good. It's all about expectations and attitudes. So I've diverged a little bit from the main theme. So the takeaway is become friendly with your wolf. Be on good terms with it. Don't try and constrain it with some half-baked notions of what is good and bad. I'm going to talk about good and bad in another video. They're relative terms, but don't try and constrain your wolf with what you think is good and bad. Give it some free rein, give it some pleasure. But whatever you do, observe it, understand it, be honest about it. Be honest about what a wolf means to nature. It means nothing. There are 7 billion of us on this planet. Something like 10 million people die every year. It's just a big recycling machine. If you can really understand nature and see what nature is, this huge, big machine that has no interest in individual creatures, then you can, in some kind of way, become free of it. And freedom must be one of the things that you want, I would imagine anyway.